So one of my sort of, sort of fantasies or ideas around all this stuff is not that we build microgrids, but more like macrogrids, like these massive data centers as the hub. So
Yeah.
maybe it's a multi-gigawatt data center plus solar and storage project. But solar and storage, one thing that's underappreciated, it's because it's modular, you can always add. It's
Yeah.
not like a nuclear plant or like a coal plant where it's like you build it once and if you miss size, tough shit.
Yeah.
Here, it's like, okay, now we can have more solar, we can have more batteries. Maybe Bitcoin plays a role as a piece of that. But I'm increasingly seeing the possibility for all these off-grid data centers to be the hubs, which then connect into, instead of microgrids, macrogrids, which are still off-grid. And then one day, my sort of just intuition about how this is going to play out is those macrogrids will get big enough and powerful enough that the utilities, as their prices are rising for anyone that doesn't unplug and go to these new spots, then all of a sudden they're going to say, well, shit, can I plug back into the macrogrid? And that's how we all reconnect.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
So as you're describing that, again, I try to go to an analog of how else in human history have we done things like this. And transit-oriented development comes to my mind, right?
Like railroads.
Railroads, right? Like if you built a road or intersection of roads somewhere and you enabled transportation of people from A to B and here to there, at those intersections, civilization came to be. People built homes there, hotels there, a bar, a restaurant, and next thing you know, like a town grows because of that. And conversely, you remove those roads or build a bigger road on this side, this one gets abandoned, right? Like when the interstate came in, all the Road 66 stuff, went away.
Dead, yeah.
So I think there is something to that where it's like, can a terawatt scale data center get plugged in? You have to generate power, and then you might end up having too much power. You might want to send it around, and then there's like a smaller buyer comes next to you, and something grows from there. I think it's plausible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think we could see that be the essentially the load center is like the place people go to work, and they want homes near it, and then more homes need more power, and you gotta build a grid around all of that.
And especially if the work of the future is mostly going to be AI anyway, right? Or a lot of it's going to be done by AI. It makes sense that those maybe your original 1 gigawatt data center scales to 10 gigawatt. The data centers keep scaling, and then as power becomes cheaper there, and there's more reliable services, and now there's fiber because you need to connect that in. Maybe for humans it becomes a little bit more hospitable. But to be clear, I think that's a long term. But by the way, while we're on that subject, do you? I mean, to kind of revisit that transmission distribution point, do you think it's always better or usually better, even if T&D costs are much higher than generation costs, to have that flexibility of a grid or even a macrogrid, like even other buyers, microgrid, macrogrid, whatever? Or do you think that maybe the data centers are just like, no, this is all we care about is our compute. We don't want to interconnect with other people. We're just going to build for ourselves.
I don't know. I don't think data centers will want to be like grid disconnected.
Yeah.
I think.
But that may be their only option the next 5 years, to be clear.
For now, yeah. But I think they're all wanting to get the grid connection.
Yeah.
To be tied to it.
Yeah.
But I think when you get to that level of scale, like power generation and the ability to get the power. If you're thinking about solar, for example, you need a lot of land.
Yeah.
They may not all get the land, right? So I think it would be a tall order to say every data center will be like on their own little macro grid.
Yeah.
I think you'll see a bunch of like 100, 500 megawatt data centers that will want the grid connection.
Yeah.
And because for them, it will be cheaper to just still buy power from the grid.
Yeah.
And you'll go through that process for it. So, yeah, I'm sure some will be done. Probably Elon might do his own thing.
Yeah, of course. It's Elon.
Everybody else will probably figure out a way to play with the grid and be flexible with it. The smaller scale, what we are seeing is like a lot of water agencies in California, in order to solve their water supply problem, right? To have steady supply of clean water available, they're running, reverse osmosis plants.
Oh, interesting.
And those are very high energy dense buildings.
Yeah, you can use solar for that.
Like on a per square foot basis of a building that runs reverse osmosis versus a data center, the RO building is 500 times more energy intense.
Wow.
Than AI GPUs.
That's
going.
crazy. Wow.
And a lot of water agencies around world, I'm sure everywhere else in the world too that has like water supply problems are doing that, but this is happening in California itself. And grid connecting these plants that are not like that huge, but some might need anywhere from 1 to 5 megawatt of grid connection is actually a problem. Like they're struggling to get that connection to the grid. So we are working in collaboration with the utilities and with these RO plants to figure out how can we do a flexible interconnection setup. So you don't actually size the connection for like the peak load, but take into account that the RO plant is going to have a battery for sure. It will probably have some gas generators. And if they have land, they will do solar. They don't actually need 24/7 fixed capacity of 5 megawatts. It can actually fluctuate. But can we design around that so that on the utility side, they do what they need to support this flexible interconnection by taking into account the fact that there's behind the meter solar battery, nat gas generator that can help support and orchestrate this interconnection. So that is one area where I think the next grid will have to get built with these sort of synergies in mind. Grid disconnect is like tough for much bigger loads. You can do a home, you can do like, a cabin, but big infrastructure, I think you're going to want to play well together, but it has to make sense going forward. Like this infrastructure cost has to be more reasonable. And the grid operators, the grid developers, planners need to also take into account the loads that are coming on and the generation that's tied to them.
Yeah, totally. I generally agree with you on but to your point, there will be crazy players. Elon, probably most notable. Let's just say for a minute, he wants to build 1 terawatt. And it's a 1 terawatt data center, primarily solar and storage, maybe a little bit of nat gas. West Texas jumps out as one of the first places you would think about doing that for the nat gas. And I was doing some just like back of the envelope calculations. I think you would need about 600,000 acres, like huge fucking amount of land. So it's also hard to get that much contiguous land if it needs to be contiguous, or at least close enough. If you were just like, you were given this like, hey, you're Elon, you have to figure this out challenge, where would you even start to think about being able to do that? I mean, one idea that I had, 2 ideas. One is, if it's too hard to do in the US, if you really want the grid interconnection, you could consider doing this in their country, Mexico, El Salvador, and Honduras. Obviously there's challenges there around financing and potential dictators and whatnot, but maybe they'd be willing to play ball. I've thought about maybe trying to set this up on like reservations, native lands, because obviously those are technically sovereign nations and have a lot more leeway. But they can also then, because of that, potentially fuck you a lot more easily than you could in
it's tough. There's the leasing there has a lot of risk that comes with it for sure.
Exactly. So there's pros and cons. Where if you had to figure out how to build a terawatt, solar storage, a little bit of nat gas, where would you even start?
I mean, in California, we have tons of that land. Central Valley, we have fossil fuels, we have gas, we have oil. We have tons of space for solar. Like there is space available. It's not. Yes, these are big acreages we're talking about, but there's a lot of underutilized land that is not really livable. The data centers that I was working on last year were actually on Navajo land. And
really? Oh,
they also have their own requirements of like how much sky obstruction you can create, because they praise the sky. That's where they want to make sure there's no like too tall of a building. They didn't want like big nat gas plants, like, but small generators on the ground was okay. So every place has its own.
Was it generally easier to build there? I mean, with these exceptions, or?
I mean, the land is not utilized for anything else, so it was a good use case of the land, and the revenue was meaningful. There are concerns from the developers, are like, so we have to put because these are sovereign nations. So coming up with a 99-year lease structure that everybody agrees to and shakes hands on and trust is an issue. So, so there's complexity for sure.
Tricky. One last sci-fi question, and then anything else you want to cover. One thing I've been thinking about is if you wanted to build, I mean, there's still a lot of issues with the transmission and distribution, not only from the cost side, but the regulatory side. I've been starting to look a bit more into wireless energy transfer.
Yeah.
Now, Nikola Tesla had the idea of the worldwide, I don't know if it was power system or something like that, like a precursor to the World Wide Web, but for energy, an internet of energy. My understanding is, and there's some people have been looking at solar in space and data centers. I'm not sure. I'm curious your thoughts on if that will ever pencil. I'm a little skeptical, but I think it was the domain of like DARPA earlier this year. So it's still very like government military funded.
Yeah.
But they were able to set a new world record of basically essentially taking solar, turning it into a laser.
And beam it down.
Yeah, beaming it and then reconverting it to solar. And like even with transmission losses, like still, you know, if solar gets really cheap, that's pretty interesting. Obviously, I wouldn't want to be a bird or something that gets in the way of that laser. Pretty fucked up. But what is your view? Is that like, is that, you know, 10 years away, 20 years away? Is that even worth exploring or?
Oh man, I'm trying to solve energy generation here on Earth. That is,
and not, cool. Not just in space. You could also do this like from, you know, connecting here to New York.
Yeah. I mean, one cool version of that I met with the company that I hope they're still doing this was they were selling you extended solar hours of generation.
Cool.
Where they're not beaming power down, but they're reflecting sunlight from like the edges of the sky to your power plant, your solar power plant. So you can get the shoulders that don't get much, you know, sun in the morning or in the evening to give you more power. I don't know where they are or how far that's gone, but I was like, oh, that's a cool one.
Yeah.
Get beam down sunlight into a power plant.
Yeah.
Give you more production hours. That sounded cool.
I'm skeptical on that penciling out yet, but it sounds cool. It sounds
they're betting on, you know, satellites getting cheaper, mirrors, reflection, yeah. And then, you know, generate the power on Earth, but just give it more irradiance.
Yeah,
so,
I love it.
Yeah,
cool.
I got to follow up with them, see where they are. That was a cool one. But yeah, the beaming power down from the sky, I don't know. Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. And what do you think about these ideas of people that are using solar to create like synthetic fuels, like synthetic nat gas, green hydrogens? Are you bullish on that stuff or?
Yeah, is it Terraform?
Yeah, that's Casey Hanneman.
So they're doing off-grid solar, direct air capture to essentially create natural gas to inject back into the pipeline. I believe they have claimed that they are getting, you know, their version of LCOE of you can produce essentially nat gas cheaper this way, you know.
Already.
All the costs in, like
wow.
I think on a 10 megawatt farm with their direct air capture machine and also converting that into nat gas. I actually sent them a tweet about this and I haven't heard back. Producing nat gas that can be cheap is great with direct air capture. Your next problem is you think, you know, electric interconnection is bad.
Yeah, the nat gas.
Try nat gas interconnection.
Yeah, fair enough.
I know of public agencies trying to do, you know, biogas injection to California natural gas grid, and despite like massive incentives that exist, projects are not getting done. It is expensive, high permitting, long delays. So I wonder,
what if you did it off grid?
But what are you going to do with the gas? The gas has to go somewhere.
Well, I'm saying imagine for these giant ass data centers where you're saying you need 20, 30% nat gas. Yeah. What if you just say solar is all you need?
Oh, yeah. Like, put it right there.
Yeah, just put it right there. Just store it.
That could work.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
That's the alpha, ladies and gentlemen. There's a business model.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that could be a way to get your baseline generation up.
Yeah.
I like that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
We should talk more about that.
We should.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But we got to tweet back at those
guys.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like, you didn't answer us, but we have another idea for you.
We've got your business model. Beautiful. Okay, Ali, I know I've kept you here a long time. What else did I not cover? Are there any things, you know, happening in your world, energy, Bitcoin, data centers, stuff that I should be aware of that maybe I'm not, or that you wanted to make sure we cover?
No, I'm just wondering why did it take us so long to get here. It's mostly my fault for for not accepting the invitation to come. This was great.
Yeah. Let's make this a regular occurrence, and you know, it should be before 5 years.
Tell us about the Type I
Summit.
Yeah, what's going on there?
Well, cool. So because this is not live streamed, I'll go ahead and announce it because the paper is not out yet.
Okay.
But the Type I Summit, super excited. You're going to come November 6th.
Yeah,
already
on
in
my calendar. Yeah,
beautiful. I got you on the website, so that's good. The Type I Summit, basically the thesis is kind of what I was laying out. Demand for electricity is going vertical. There is no top. Yeah, maybe. Like to your point, even if the disagreements for most people that are deep in an industry on something, that people that are like serious and actually have some idea of what's happening in an industry, usually just comes down to time frame, right? Because on some level, you were saying, oh, like, utilities are so nervous, like, are we going to overbuild? You never overbuild. There's never been one moment in human history when we overbuild. It's like, oh, did I buy Bitcoin at the wrong time? There's never a wrong time if you zoom out, right? It's like, now if you bought at the top and then you have to wait another 4 years for the cycle, that kind of sucks. Or if you overbuilt and now it's a decade before someone uses it, but like, zoom out just a little bit and like, there is no top for energy usage. There is no top for Bitcoin price. Like,
totally,
there's no top. And so as those timeframes in theory become more and more compressed, that's what I think is happening. Again, I was just blown away seeing some of the numbers that I saw for some of my portfolio companies where it's just like, holy shit, the demand for AI stuff is real. The electrification of vehicles and everything else, that's real. Heat pumps, that's real. By the way, we had a quantum summit here at PB. One of my biggest takeaways, we had PsiQuantum, which is one of the sort of leading private companies on this, is that they're going to need a fuck ton of electricity too. And they're not live yet. So like I don't mind making these giant ass bets because even if, okay, there's like a mini bubble and just like, with fiber, there's like got a little overbuilt. Okay, Google bought it. And then 20 years later, we need more. Or we have Starlink or whatever it is.
No, on a long enough time scale, all of these are right.
Exactly.
Okay. And we should plan for it. We should plan for no top.
100%. And in the meantime, ideally, and the trick as an investor is you don't want to be too early because that's as good as being wrong. But like, now we have more tools in the toolbox, things like Bitcoin miners that could potentially help you monetize until you get to that next stage, right? So anyways, so that's one of my theses. My other thesis is that solar and storage are going to eat most everything else. There are exceptions in, specific geographies. And I think one thing that's crazy to me is there are not enough people that are thinking, and a third piece is that, more radically free markets for electricity. Like basically my thesis is kind of like along with Bitcoin has kind of opened my eyes towards a lot of things where I look around and I say, well, why was there such a problem with inflation and monetary creation? Monopoly. I look at electricity and I'm like, why are costs so high? My view, I mean, yes, there's a lot of specifics, but generally boils down to markets are better than central planning. Same thing for healthcare, same thing for university. Like wherever there's like a government granted monopoly, like everyone ends up getting fucked, even the people that, are trying to do the right thing. And I don't think, I'm not as much, conspiracy, they're trying to get, it's just like, no, like incentives build up and like, turns out markets are real. Like, I think if I could get one idea across to people that I've learned from Bitcoin, particularly those that think, there's like kind of like right wing, whatever. Like, I don't identify with any of that stuff. Like to me, if anything, I've come to appreciate Hayek more, the economist, and seeing that prices are holy. Because think about how crazy it is that we have this magical mechanism where you can take infinite inputs, synthesize it in real time. I mean, is that not a form of artificial intelligence and come up with a price? But when we distort prices, you mess up the whole system. And to me, it's very much, I'm extremely interested in complexity science. I'm extremely interested in sort of Eastern philosophy as well. And this idea that the human mind is powerful, but it's a tool and it's a subset of the whole, the sort of Gödel's incompleteness theorem of like a member of a set is not the whole set, full stop. And so whenever we're like, yes, we can plan better, it's like, no, you can't. Like the intelligence of nature, that is the magic. And the more we lean into that, and I get it, there's always a balance to be struck because if you go too far that way, like I wouldn't want to be the person that gets steamrolled in the middle. I wouldn't want to be the bug that gets crushed. Like, I understand all that. But in general, I feel like the more we can expose the magic of prices to the fundamental backbone of civilization, which is energy, the better off we all are as a society. So the whole thesis of Type I Summit is how do we find what I'm calling the solar pirates? I was going to say solar cowboys, but it's not just Texas,
I like pirates. So I did a post in January about we are still the pirates.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
I didn't even see that. Okay, well.
I like solar pirates. That's why,
Black shirt, same color jeans. I'll show you as well. Great minds think alike.
As do ours.
Exactly. Left side of the curve today. But the pirates are these people who are willing and excited, as you said, to take a leap, take a risk, sail the uncharted high seas. And I think it's just going to be really fucking fun. And so my goal is how do we get together the most forward-looking, risk-on solar pirate developers, financiers, people from the Bitcoin industry that maybe can help with some of the software to orchestrate all this. And how do we build, as my fund is called, a hive mind, an internet of electricity, an internet of energy, similar to what we have is now an internet of information with the traditional internet, internet of value, which is what we have with Bitcoin. How do we tie in the internet protocol for electricity? And that's the goal. So we're going to get a bunch of people together like yourself.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this and you're excited, we have an application up on Type I summit.org. So
sweet, man.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Solar Pirates. Let's fucking go.
Let's go.